clarifying the story for us.
Good morning, Leanne.
All right, let me begin with my first question to you now. We've been getting mixed reactions on the Dalai Lama's visa. So let's get clarity from you now. Did the South African government refuse to grant the Dalai Lama a visa?
Okay, in the interest of time, let me try and cover everything in this segment. What essentially happened is that there was an application by the Dalai Lama. We're essentially dealing with the same set of facts as last year. So there was an application which was received by our High Commission in New Delhi, India. After receiving the application, you obviously subjected to due processes. As you know, Home Affairs is the department that issues travel documents. Whilst that application was undergoing due process, we received a written confirmation from the Dalai Lama that he has now decided to cancel his plans to travel to South Africa. You don't have to take my word for it. We have it in writing. So he effectively withdrew his application. Now that he has decided to cancel his trip to South Africa, we are now being asked to explain why he is not coming here. So anybody that tries to push the narrative that the Dalai Lama has been denied entry into South Africa or denied a visa is factually incorrect. In fact, I could venture into saying they are lying. The question that needs to be asked, and I would actually advise his office and the media, by the way, to pose this question: why does he apply and not allow the South African government to make a decision on whether to grant the application or to deny it? I would do that if I was him. If he wanted to really put the South African government under the spotlight or on the spot, allow the application to undergo due process and allow us to make a decision. The second issue I wanted to deal with is this assertion that was made yesterday that there was no appetite from the South African government to assist with the logistics of this conference. Here's what happens. We hosted several international summits and conferences in this country before, successfully at that, like your WSSD, the BRICS Summit, COP17. What usually happens, and this is the procedure, is that there has to be a presentation to cabinet. Once there is cabinet approval, because when you host dignitaries of certain categories, you need to extend to them certain courtesies like transport, receiving them through the protocol lounge and all of that, because there has to be a budget attached to this. You need to ask the organizers of this conference that has now been suspended, did you make a presentation to cabinet? Was this conference approved by cabinet? Because that will unravel a whole lot of questions. So to answer your question, once again, he was not denied a visa.
Okay,
he made an application and cancelled even before the government
Clayson,
could make a decision.
We've heard your view. Let me now ask you some questions. I think I've given you enough time now. This is the third time, Clayson, it's not the first time. Why is it taking so long to issue a visa? Surely you've got all these documents in your hand. It's not the first time he's been denied a visa. This is the third time, I'll emphasize that he has not received a visa. I'm not saying you denied it, because you are saying that the South African government didn't deny it. But why is it taking so long? What is the problem with the Dalai Lama coming to this country?
Well, the answer to that question is actually very simple. If you go to the Home Affairs website and check the period which they advise every applicant that this is the period it usually takes for a visa application. And by the way, every application is treated on its own merits. So it could be anything between 7 days and 3 weeks, and in other cases longer. Anybody that has applied for a visa to any country, whether the US or any country, will tell you that. So it did not take long. Whilst the application was still undergoing due process, he cancelled, which effectively means withdrawing and therefore not allowing the government to decide whether to grant this visa or not. If I was him and I want to put the South African government on the spot, I would apply and leave it there and make them decide either way to grant it or not to grant. Then we'll have something to talk about.
Okay, so let's now just look at the reaction from the Dalai Lama, because he has now reacted to not being allowed into South Africa or not coming to South Africa. He is not necessarily saying that he cancelled his application. To quote him, he said that South Africa is bullying a simple person, and he goes on to say that the South African government wouldn't allow me to attend. Your reaction? Are we calling the Dalai Lama a liar?
But with due respect, that is factually incorrect. Don't take my word for it. we have a written confirmation from his office in writing, confirming that he is cancelling his plans to travel to South Africa. It's not a manufacturing of facts. There is a letter from him. So for him to now turn around and say he feels bullied, firstly, I don't even know what bullying would mean in this context where you apply and then cancel and then you turn around and you want the government to explain why you're not coming. We can't force anybody to visit the country. We've said it before that the Dalai Lama is welcome to visit South Africa. But this idea that people make applications and then cancel and then we must explain why they are not coming, I think it's unfair. So factually, he's incorrect to say he's being bullied because he's the one who cancelled. Nobody denied him a visa.
All right. That's the reaction, and we needed clarity from you. There's one final question, and I need to ask you this because I think it doesn't matter where you are when you're reading newspapers and when a story of the Dalai Lama comes out. I think the first conclusion that people jump to is the fact that South Africa is being bullied by China regarding this matter, and particularly being a part of BRICS. Let's talk about this. Are we being bullied? Do you agree with some various quarters in the press that are reporting on this?
You know, the issue of who influences decisions. South Africa's foreign policy is independent, and we are known to be not influenced by anybody when it comes to the implementation of our foreign policy. It's the most fierce and independent foreign policy. But in this context, that question does not even arise because we did not take a decision whether to allow the Dalai Lama to come to South Africa or not. He applied and then cancelled. Had we decided to not give him the visa, then we could talk about who influenced your decision not to allow him to come here. Because we did not make such a decision, that question does not arise. He cancelled. We did not deny him a visa. We did not even grant the visa. We were not even allowed to make that decision. So the question of who influenced that decision does not arise because we did not take that decision. He cancelled his trip.
All right, Clayson, thank you for clarifying and giving us your side of the story, the government side of the story when it comes to this. Clayson Monyela, of course, is the spokesperson when it comes to the Home Affairs Department. Thank you very, very much for being our guest. All right, let's